ice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need the wrong or right. You never know if you don't go and die.
Hello, Matt.
Howdy, Rob. It's another episode of us talking and writing adventures. It's Dungeon Master of None.
And I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt, and this is the second part of our actual prep designing the greatest starting adventure of all time, trademark, copyright, LLC.
That's right. We don't have a title for it yet, but we'll have to, maybe we can come up with that at the end of this episode. But in the first one, we sketched out sort of the main scope based on our guiding principles of what we think a starting adventure should contain. Mm-hmm. And I think we came up with a pretty good, I would like to run it, and I think it's got some cool parts, but a pretty good outline for a basic 1, 2, 3 session, probably 2 if you're moving quickly. 1 to 2 session.
I'm hoping this can be 1, but it might be
ideally
2.
1, but 1 to 2 session adventure to launch a campaign or to introduce players to the game. Hits all the big important bits, all the pillars of play, and introduces sort of the fantastic world of D&D, and has a little some hooks for future adventures, and does all of the it's also fun to play, all those things in theory.
Here's the basic idea in case it's been a while since you listened to our first episode on this. The players head to a coastal city in which many people have recently been kidnapped by mysterious forces. One of the 2 tavern owners they meet is also kidnapped while they're sitting down to enjoy their first meal after a long series of travels. They can track the person that was stolen down a beach to a cave guarded by a crayfish. They discover the demons that stole this person and can interact with some mysteries in the cave, figuring out the kind of backstory that, there was once a bronze dragon that guarded this village and was preventing it from sinking into the ocean. Deep inside the cave, they can confront the person who did the kidnapping, who is currently drowning and sacrificing their friend, and can turn themselves into a dragon. They can defeat this person, save the person who was kidnapped, and get back home, hopefully, and maybe pick up some treasure. You got to add some treasure. Anyway, that's the 20-second outline. It's a simple 4-room dungeon so far. Yeah.
And I think that's, I think it's a strong start, but now we need to sort of build out, flesh out, add a bit more detail where relevant. There are a few things that definitely we skipped over, so we're going to try to hit as much as we can. Obviously, parts of this aren't going to be very useful on a podcast. We'll have to draw some maps and, but ultimately you should have a pretty good sense of what this will look like, and then we'll release the final adventure for all of our beautiful Patreons. Yeah.
So writing an adventure is, to paraphrase from Samin Nosrat, it's a lot like seasoning your cooking. Like when you're first outlining, you definitely want to add spice. You want to add seasoning. You want to add salt. But you also want to add salt after the first couple steps are done. And then, depending on the dish, you may need to add in a little more salt after it's done. You got to salt at several different points. So it's like cooking some meat. You salt beforehand, you salt when you put it in the oven.
That's right.
Maybe you salt again.
There are many stages in the cooking process where seasoning is required, not just at the beginning, and certainly not just at the end. So now we're gonna finish our flavor profile. We're gonna build it out.
Right.
So before I've got a list. You've got a list. Some things that I've been thinking about. So
let's just start with some general thinking things.
Yeah. So one thing I was poking through Fizban's and some of the older books about dragons. I was reading up on bronze dragons, and I came across some interesting stuff that I think that we can use to add, again, a little spice a little, something to distinguish, especially our starting town and some bits about the adventure. So here's some thoughts that I have. Let me know what you're thinking.
Okay, yeah. Hit me with this deep Dracononomicon stuff.
So first of all, I was thinking about Bronze. I was thinking about our town name, and I thought we didn't really have a good name.
Sure.
What about something like, let's just call it 3 bells or 4 bells or 5 bells, and they've got 3 magical bells, bronze, right? Cast in time immemorial, for the dragon or by the dragon, and they ring on their own and they tell time perfectly, right? A little like 3 bell towers in the city, and it's, that's what the town is named for.
Oh, that is super cool. I love a simple thing that is easy for the players to fucking remember what the name of the town is called, right?
Yep.
If the name of the town is Arcana Laxil, right. they're just gonna make fun of the name, right?
Phil Saxerberg, yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're not gonna remember that,
Sure.
and mock it. So 3 bells, right? I think
Lancashire, for example.
Right.
Birmingham.
Ridiculous names. Philadelphia,
Okay.
come on.
Yeah. Okay. I love you can't just take 2 Latin words and combine them. Okay. I love the idea of the 3 bells. I would also like to add to forefront the city is sinking into the sea. One of the 3 bell towers, or are they all in the same bell tower?
They're 3 separate towers, and they
Okay,
can be all
one
like,
of the
next
bell
to each
towers-
other or
yeah.
somewhere else. Yeah.
One of them is still sticking out of the ocean, and like to get to it,
okay.
you have to take a rowboat to it, and it's kind of cool. It's when you look out on the ocean, you definitely see it sticking up, and you can
I love that.
see the outline of the bell, and you definitely know it's magical because it's like still preserved.
So, and then there's a couple of other things. Again, I was thinking about bronze, thinking about dragons, and bronze dragons are, among other things, they're known to be very, very lawful, very orderly and forceful. These are metallic dragons. They are technically good, but
Yeah, they're good.
in the sense that dragons are, which can kind of be a little intense. And one of the things that was in Fizzband's treasury that it got me just like really got my wheels a turning is there's some regional effects suggested for the Bronze Dragon lair, and one of them is unfailing faithfulness. Sapient creatures that spend a year within 10 miles of the dragon's lair find it nearly impossible to break a promise. And so I was thinking...
Oh, that's so good.
That's so good, right? I was thinking this town is known for its just... The people here are known to be exceptionally honest, fair dealers, and they always have been, and nobody thinks much of it. It's not like they can't ever lie or can't ever, but like there's just like
just
a very,
less
very
likely to lie or cheat you or not.
just a very, very strong
promise.
tendency towards honesty, towards reliability, trustworthiness, and people in the town will almost always tell the players the truth, if asked, and they will keep their promises. Nobody will try to cheat them or bargain them, and they might notice this. I've got a couple of ways this can tie
except
into
for the one evil person we're going to hide somewhere.
I was thinking we could tie this into a couple of NPCs, but I thought that these are 2 things that like would make this town very easy to remember, right? The bells and the sort of, everybody does what they say they're going to do. So this ties into, I know that one of the questions that we had, how do we, one, who is our villain and why do they do what they do, and how do we forefront that villain? And I think that, and we can go into more detail later, I think that the villain is a relatively recent arrival, and they've been finding, again, as they spend more time in the under the influence or near the influence of this Bronze Dragon lair, that they're having it's harder and harder for them to deceive people, harder and harder for them to break promises and kidnap people and do the things that they're going to do, which is why they've sort of like stepped up their timeline in recent weeks and months, because they're running out of time and they know that they're, they're in conflict with themselves as they're being influenced by this unfailing faithfulness effect.
It's a great like background reason for, why are they doing this right now? Why aren't they just taking years and years to do this? Because this truly is a long-term problem. The city is dealing with, that they're dealing with.
Right.
Maybe that's maybe their plans were somehow, in fact, more evil originally. But as they've spent time in the town, they're like, well, actually, I should use this evil power to save the town, right? So they've dropped their evil goal, but they're still keeping their evil means.
Yeah, maybe their patron that we said was maybe Davy Jones, wanted them to kidnap and press these people into service to him.
Davy Jones wanted to flood this city and prepare it for his ship to come all take them down.
That's right.
But actually, one of the things that we love about warlocks is they could do whatever they want with their patron's powers.
Right. So this warlock started to sympathize with, identify with the town, and wanted to save it through dubious means, yes, but try to use their patron's power to stop it from sinking in the end.
We need a name for this warlock.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that.
I mean, names don't have to. There doesn't have to be a hidden meaning behind the name of your main NPCs
there doesn't.
Or
just
villain.
Just gotta sound right.
Let's see. Nalo. I've got. Let's see. Ram. I don't know. Do you have a gender or not in mind for this villain? Should we go feminine presenting in that like a lot of the other starting adventures, the gender is either goblin or evil dude?
That's what I was thinking, is that, there's not a lot of like starting lady villains. So
this right here is a victory for feminism. Right
That's right. That's right. We're doing feminism right here, everybody. So let's see. Let me grab some. Let's do something classic. How about Eleonora?
I've also got Sariel on my
Sariel.
list.
Oof, okay.
Land of
let's do Sariel.
It's got an Ariel, like
Sariel,
like the Little Mermaid.
We'll make her an elf. That sounds, or half elf or something.
Yeah. Elf is good in that they have lots more time. I would say keep the species. One of it's always, I like to keep the species of some of my NPCs a little flexible. If I end up with a party of players that is mostly dwarves or elves, maybe I will, depending on the context, put a fellow dwarf or elf or something to mix things up, right? If you're like, there's no humans, maybe this NPC. Okay, I'm gonna switch that to a human.
We'll leave it unspecified.
Well, no, we can choose for our thing. I like half elf. I think half elf is good.
All right, so Sariel is a half elf warlock. Her patron is Davy Jones. For now, maybe we'll change that. And she was initially going to drown the town, either one by one or all at once, to give Davy Jones more souls for his Flying Dutchman, but changed and started using her powers to try to
save the town,
to stop it from
by sacrificing a small fraction of the town.
Yes,
in a terrible demonic sacrifice.
That's right.
And I think we were gonna say, and is this too complicated? Like when they came to town, they were posing, or she was posing as the apprentice to the town's wizard, or we said that actually they were the town's wizard that got corrupted. But I like that they're a new addition to the town.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, let's talk about the list of NPCs that we should write out or include, at least like names of or lists of, for the town, because we want to have a few, but we want to have it limited. And then I have a couple of ideas for Sariel's relationship to these NPCs. So
Okay, yeah, this is a good approach. Let's do the town NPCs before we do everything else. So we know we have a tavern, and I've got
Yep.
actually, I think, pretty good names stolen from the Dragonborn list, since they're
Nice.
dragon-blooded. The two twins, Patron and Para.
I like that. I just wrote down Brindisi, which is the origin is bronze, so that's their last name. Patron and Para Brindisi. The Brindisi twins could be the Brindisi Tavern, whatever. I like that.
Yeah,
So you got-
let's give it a better name than the Brindisi Tavern. Taverns in D&D always have to have, fairly cool names. Here's where we could add in a little dragon illusion.
Okay.
We want to forefront this to our players, and maybe this was, it could be the Dragon's Landing Tavern. It was built on what legend says a spot where a dragon landed. And,
what about
something.
the broken scale or the shattered scale, and they've got like a enormous bronze dragon scale like above
hanging
the mantle
as their hanging as their what do you call it?
as the shingle,
the
as
shingle, yeah.
Though it could be if you want to go Dragon's Landing, we could do that. I'm just thinking the weirder. Just think about all the tavern names that I know, and they're all something absurd. And the boar's bristle or the
Last time I was in Portland, I walked by a tavern that was the Sports Bra. It was a sports bar that only shows women's sports. I was like,
that's right.
very
That's
cool.
brand new, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Dragon's Landing. It's got a bronze dragon scale, and right. This is one of the first hints that there's not the first, but it's a clear reminder, if the players haven't asked around yet, that this town has a dragon association at its core.
Right. And there's shingle, a big bronze scale, a mug of ale painted on it. I mean, it's huge. You can only imagine how big the dragon could be. It is there is maybe it is right on the edge of the coast, like on the back half, like one of those Florida bars where, on one side you can park and the other side you can pull up your boat.
Pull up your boat. Yeah, it's on stilts, and it's
knock back your Yinglings, and I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. It's open to the air. You can sit on and overlook the sea. Yeah, I like that.
I'm imagining that this town might have a very what is the name of the filmmaker, Harmony Korine, who did Spring Breakers and Trash Humpers and the one with Matthew McConaughey, The Beach Bum, a real maybe a real Florida just weird Florida vibe.
Beach town vibes. If you've ever been to coastal Florida or like Galveston or South Padre Island, or any of like the islands, off the Georgia coast, all these beach towns kind of have they got a vibe. American beach towns do. Yeah, that's right. Harmony Korine really lives in that ethos. Anyway,
I got shorts, every color. Look at all my
Okay.
Right.
I like this.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like a little out of place with the older stone and bronze, Three Bells town, which is built on, which has centuries of history, but is kind of sinking. And so there's a mix in this town of old stone piers and small but regal buildings, and then shit built on stilts and rickety old boats and that sort of thing.
Right.
I like that.
And I imagine maybe because of the blessings of the lair of this now deceased bronze dragon, maybe the fish has been bountiful and easy, and
I was gonna say,
everyone's honest and got that kind of laid, but instead of an honest uptight attitude, everyone, I'm very nice. I'm
an honest,
like a weird
laid back surfer attitude. It's everybody's hanging 10, and it's because it's sinking, because it's kind of remote. It's not like a flourishing
just like
town,
Florida,
but everyone's got enough to eat. the fishing is good, the salt collection, the salt works is fine. People do okay in Three Bells.
And compared to, when we often go like, this is an honest, righteous town, my mind even immediately goes to like weird Mormons or like pilgrim, creepiness. And I'm like, no, maybe. And honestly, if you're a dungeon master and you have to do a voice for an NPC, doing Surfer Dude voice, the easiest voice to do.
It'll save you some trouble of having to like learn a different accent. Everyone can do a Surfer Dude voice. So this ties into something else I was thinking. Again, I was thinking.
Can we add an NPC DJ drug dealer named James Franco's Alien? No, let's not. Okay.
Everybody's got white people dreads. No. No. Your players can get cornrows before they go into the dungeon. No, sorry. I was thinking. Again, this is an honest town. It's a small town, pretty close knit. I was thinking it's also on the coast, lagoon, swamp, that it's got something like the Frisian, free holds or like Dithmarschen or something. It's got like a relatively democratic council, and they don't have a mayor, they have like a rector or a podesta or something like that. Somebody who's elected to the head of the council, and we should give them a name. There's somebody who can answer questions.
Town council headed by John Podesta. I think that's what I heard you say.
Not a Podesta, but that they used to be the name for the. Sorry, that's where. I like. Can't believe that guy's ruined history for me. It's so fucking annoying. It's like if fucking Hillary Clinton's PR person was named Nancy Noble or something, and
yeah,
every single time I'm like reading a history book, I'm just like Noble. Anyway,
Noble. Okay. So town council. Why don't we pick the members of the town council? 3 is a manageable number.
Sure.
There are 3 bells in the town. That's why the tradition is 3. How about one of them is our town wizard, because we've got a wizard tower, but we haven't said anything about it.
I also we talked about maybe the wizard is missing as one of our hooks. So I think
that's fine.
So let's have
he's a member or she's a member of the town council. They're also missing. They may be a ghost.
Okay.
I like a ghost wizard.
So the wizard, let's come up with a random wizard name. Balorax, and Balorax has gone missing, but Balorax has a tower, mostly well liked, but has been missing for an indeterminate amount of time.
And are we saying that our villain offed them as they were maybe the only person in the town with the power to kind of stop them?
No, I kind of want to leave. So you can disagree with me. I kind of want to leave the wizard disappearance as a unassociated hook for the future, and also just something to add texture to the game. I think that our warlock Sariel should have been posing as the apprentice or under study to the cleric of our temple.
I like this was that actually better.
Another NPC that I was going to suggest, a cleric of probably Waukeen Saloon. Here's the annoying thing about D&D pantheons is that all the ocean and water gods are chaotic evil, which is,
the ocean does want to destroy us.
It's just very complicated when you're like, here's a temple to Umberlee, and something innocuous like there's a cleric of Waukeen that blesses the city and the trade, and then Sariel showed up as a junior priestess and then started acting weird.
2 options. One, we could make this a town that follows the druidic faith. And so maybe, druids could have buildings too. They don't have to only have groves, especially druids that live by the sea. Druids are also into shape changing, which Sariel likes.
And that's a little different. Okay.
Or we could just pick, we want to leave this open enough that if you want to run it in Eberron, if you want to run it in Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk or your own world, you can, and just say, the church in town, the temple in town is of a deity of relatively good, civilization, right?
I like your first idea better because it requires no. It means people can pick this up and put it down without making any changes because all settings have druids, and so you can say there's a druidic, not a grove, a druidic pool, and then there's a high.
I like the idea of there's sea druids, and they have
a sea druid, right? A high druid who looks
The temple, the druidic temple, is built around a tidal pool that fills and drains every day, and that's like part of their I don't know.
Oh, and then
druid worship.
Our high druid or our druid, grove master or whatever can be the ultimate surfer dude. He shapeshifts into a sea lion every day and goes and rides the waves. And he's super chill and loves nature and everything in balance. Oh my god, I love this. Sorry, this is rad. Okay, so we got a surfer druid.
Okay, and Ulrich. Maybe a Celtic name or something like that. Yeah, ultimate surfer druid, the town druid.
And he's he's not worthless. Like, he protects the town, and he he does his rights and keeps everything in balance. But it's not a particularly unlike the aggressively honest, horrible insular Mormon town. It's a chill, laid back beach town where everybody is a plain dealer.
Is Ulrich on the town council?
Sure, let's keep it simple. Okay. Let's say the town council is Balarax, Ulrich, and then let's have a politician, or just like the rector. The current head of the council is a lady.
Why don't we say we also wrote Saltworks? It could be a capitalist. It could be
a merchant,
petty merchant.
The person who runs the Saltworks.
I got some names if you want. I got my random names list up. Let's see. I'm going to hit you with some. Isabel with a Y. Sibelia.
Keep going.
Beatrice,
Joan is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Saltworks owner.
Mistress Joan runs the Saltworks. Perfect. I love it. Okay.
So there's some important, powerful NPCs. Do we want to add in some other NPCs that are, we don't have to list everyone, but we don't want to
bog down the adventure, so we should only do one or two more. I was thinking we should have a visiting merchant, somebody who's come to town, who's there to trade, and they can give sort of some perspective if the players want to ask around, and they can be like, something not quite right about Three Bells. There's good people here, but they're all just very, kind of weirdly honest, and maybe they can give a little bit of if the townsfolk are unwilling to talk for some reason, mention what happened to Balarax, tell them a little bit about the history, whatever. A visiting merchant.
Okay, let's see. A visiting merchant, Rufus, who, let's give him a distinguishing character trait, is pretty much all he needs besides being a outsider.
What does Rufus sell? What do these people need?
I mean, he sells manufactured goods and things made of
clothing,
iron. He's
textiles,
trading for salts and dried fish.
I mean, I love a guy who's overdressed. Let's say that he's got a really fancy hat and wears, silk clothes and entirely just like a real, peacock kind of guy, a little pompous, fancy lad who loves.
But he's also missing his 3 front top teeth. Got punched out over a deal gone wrong. He's very self-conscious about it.
Does he have gold teeth, or just he have no teeth?
I think he's saving up for gold teeth.
Okay. All right. So Rufus is missing some teeth. He's very well dressed. He's come from...
Or he has some gold teeth, but occasionally they will fall out while he's talking to you.
Up to you. He's come from, again, this is entirely setting dependent, but some nearby town to trade.
A bigger
and
city.
A bigger city, and can tell the players a bit. Yeah, Rufus.
Quickly we can add
Let's add a fisherman.
A fisherwoman.
Fisherwoman.
Gotta
Perfect.
add a couple men. And let's see. Maybe some nature names in this town, right?
Yeah.
If we got a druid, Fern is her name, and
Fern.
maybe an older fisherwoman, one who actually has a grandmother or a great grandmother who
River. River's a good water name.
River. Okay. River and River has a grandmother or a great grandmother who, talked to someone who remembers the dragon times.
Yes. River's grandmother remembers the old ways, the old legends, and can tell the players about it.
I mean, River's grandmother didn't meet the dragon, but
sure.
she talked to someone who met the dragon. Like we're 2 generations, 5 generations removed here.
Right.
So,
but
and her,
I like that.
I would say, like a fisher person, her characteristics should be, just very gruff and no nonsense. Wants conversations to be as short as possible.
Terse,
but fairly
busy,
not unkind. Just,
to the point.
Yeah. We've got the NPCs fleshed out a bit more. Oh, let's add a little bit of all these people. None of them are evil. Things we want to add more hooks for what could happen later. We mentioned this town might have an alchemist. What about a kind of evilish alchemist or someone who is, doing something that is not great in the town? That is
I like
separate
that.
from.
We mentioned. Here's the thing. You mentioned, I thought this was a good idea, you mentioned pirates nearby. What if we have somebody in town who is not obviously a pirate, but is clearly
they only have one parrot and a monkey.
They're missing a hand, but they got a regular wooden hand instead of a hook, and you're like...
they're trading black powder to pirates, right? They sell black powder to a pirate ship that is nearby. And then what is the name of that nearby pirate gang or ship that the rumors have said
ship...
that people maybe believe is responsible for kidnapping people.
For all the disappearances. Ooh, that's a good one. It's a good question.
Pick one of your many favorite pirates from history, and we'll reskin them for fantasy.
Half of them have revenge in the name, and I was trying to come up with a ship that didn't have revenge. How about something like the I was thinking our town is based on a metallic dragon. What if we have a chromatic
the Golden
dragon?
Hind?
Golden Hind was where I started, but I was like, hang on, I can do better than that. The Black Worm.
Oh.
Ooh, I like that.
Ooh, the Black Worm. That is good. Right?
Okay. And the captain of the Black Worm
and their pirate flag is definitely like a dragon skull with 2 cross sabers, right?
Yes.
To remind us we're in fantasy land.
Jolly Roger. Yeah, that's right. And the captain is Harold Scartooth or something. I don't know. This is for the future, but we'll start there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's the rumor in town.
That's
anyway, about that. Okay, all right. I'm liking this town. We also said, we've added a couple, at least in my notes, interesting locations. Right, there's a pier out into the ocean where a ceremony is conducted every year of marriage to the sea. And then
there's our grove, which is a tidal pool. There's
right, which has a regular temple built around it,
Yep.
and
there's a wizard tower. There's a salt works.
And we also have an unfailing freshwater spring, right? Coastal towns need fresh water, and this one is right in the middle of the town. Everyone gets their daily water from there. Rumor has it there's a naiad that lives under that spring.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Okay. All right. So Three Bells is looking good. Players have a lot of there's a lot more if the players, come back after going to the dungeon or poke around before following the tracks, or if you want to run this a little bit differently where you have players arrive and explore the town, we have some options to do that. Let's go back to our opening scene. The players start in a tavern, and one of the tavern twins, Patron or Para Brindisi, is kidnapped by aquatic dretch demons and dragged away in the evening in the dark light, and the players can follow.
I've got something for this. It just occurred to me. So
okay.
So our opening, we got names now. Our players arrive. Presumably they make their way to the tavern, where they are greeted by the Brindisi twins. They're friendly. They interact. We have a little bit of role play. They ask questions. Hopefully the players come to like them.
Right.
One of the twins goes to get water from our, never-ending spring, and they are there, dragged into the depths by the dretches, and disappear, and people have to go looking for them. I was trying to think how they could be kidnapped in a way that indicates, or that's relevant and also isn't weird and makes sense.
Yeah, so I like that idea of having something supernatural. I guess my concern is for brand new players, you want them to be able to uncover the mystery fairly easily. And one of the things I really liked about ours is tracks across a sandy beach.
That's right.
A new player's well, I could look for tracks. Oh, it's the sand. I can spot the tracks. Oh, we could follow the tracks. Right?
That's true. There's some very clear things to do if, there's tracks and they've been taken along the beach. If they just disappear into the water, then it becomes a lot more, where do I go? What do I do?
Right.
Good point.
Yeah. Okay, one of the twins goes out to the fountain.
So
maybe they
ignore
have
that. Doesn't matter. So we'll put in, I guess we can just put some guidelines in for DMs. You let players role play for an appropriate amount of time, and then suddenly somebody rushes in, Para or Patron has been kidnapped, and and then if they haven't found out already, people have been going missing, and if they need further encouragement, then Madam What's-Her-Face shows up. Mistress Joan shows up and offers a substantial reward for...
Or I would say the twin could offer...
right. Sorry, the other twin is if for some reason the players are not ready to go look, the other twin will be like, please bring back my, brother or sister. I'll pay you, 500 gold pieces or something or other.
Yeah, I think if we want to quote script unquote this out for new dungeon masters, we could say after 5 minutes or something like that, Petrin or Para says, wow, they kind of been gone a long time, and then do we want someone to stumble into the tavern and be like, I just saw someone get kidnapped by demons, or not by demons but by something I heard a scream for help, and I went and no one was there.
Yeah.
Do we want to have one of our NPCs be the person to do that? Our visiting merchant, Rufus, our fisherwoman.
Yeah, Rufus is good. Let's have Rufus do this.
Okay. Right. Rufus, says I was pulling my wagon up, I left it there. And so the players can investigate the scene. Rufus's wagon full of textiles and iron fish hooks is parked right there. The horses are uneasy because of the smell of demons. And on the beach side of the fountain are a ton of like scuffle marks, like maybe a little bit of blood and a terrible smell. And then, if the players look, tracks leading off to the beach.
Perfect. I love that. Yeah, and we should script it out, but also make clear to the DMs, feel free to break from the script or do something different, but here's the steps you should take if you're not sure how to move the adventure forward.
And then a little bit of player motivation hinges on this, plus this is our first scene. So if we can do anything to spice up, and again, we can always come back and add seasoning later,
Yep.
Perrin and Petra, and make them seem cool but not annoying, people the players like. If we want to make the tavern like as awesome as possible, like maybe they have because this is a beach town, and occasionally during, not right now, but during the summer or winter months, rich people from the city come to hang out and bathe in some of the tidal pools.
Or maybe there's like a regatta that comes through and they stop, their sailing vessels like once a year at to resupply and party and whatever. But yeah, I like that there's, yeah.
This small town has a nice list of mixed drinks and cocktails and like very delicious like ceviche on for the players. And then Perrin and Petrin, what traits? We said we would make both of them like attractive. Right?
Sure,
that's a good trait.
We could
to
just
make
describe them
care
as
about an
they
NPC.
have scintillating smiles, bright, let's call them, hazel eyes with flecks of shining bronze, right? They've got the dragon eyes. And I think, and this is the part that's a little challenging for the DM, but, a lot of it is just in how you play them. They're friendly, they're gregarious, they're generous. They give a free round to the players. They, offer them snacks or something.
Right.
It could be subtle, it
is-
could be small,
yeah.
but like describe them as, appealing, and then they give them a free round of drinks. They ask them what they're up to. They get to know them briefly, and then one of them goes missing.
Yeah, I like that. We could also add in a couple. I find that new players, if you start a scene in the tavern, players will be like, is there anyone else in this tavern?
Yep.
Are there any cool objects on the wall? So for other seasoning that we need to add, I would say we need to add, cool knickknacks and, one NPC in
Sure.
this tavern.
I say, seems pretty simple. River's drinking there, and Rufus is drinking there before he steps outside to have a smoke or something. There's, let's put the bronze scale inside rather than on the shingle, because that's a pretty valuable thing. And so maybe it's hanging above or behind the bar, right? This really cool bronze scale of God knows how big of a dragon it is. And then some
a musket or crossbow that supposedly was stolen from a pirate.
I love that. An old rusty crossbow above the bar that belonged to an ancient pirate foe.
A faded banner or tapestry that ties into some other hook that you would like to have.
Great.
We could think of what that could be. And then, just very good ceviche.
Great ceviche. Good. They have more than just ale and wine. They've got some hard liquors that are harder to come by in the non-coastal cities, and so some fun, interesting drinks.
Yeah, to let players know like what kind of town this is. It is a tiki bar, and everyone is a rockabilly.
Everybody
Sorry.
loves it.
Actually, that's the bit of flavor,
folks.
It's
Yeah.
Oh, actually, there we go. Yes,
you're in fantasy Margaritaville.
Burgermeister in Paradise.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so Perrin and
We're
Petra,
having
I
too
know
much fun
exactly
with the
what they
town,
look
Matt.
like. They're Margaritaville people. We are having too much fun with the town. We've got to move on to our first scene, which is the players tracking the demons. I was thinking spice here. One of the things we haven't added yet, one of the pillars that I think is one of our weakest, is exploration. When the players are like walking down the beach, following these tracks, we should make this more than just you're walking down a beach. Like, what is something fantastical or cool that they see or encounter here, whether they investigate it or not?
So I had this idea, and you can let me know if this is what you had in mind. But again, I was poking through some of the lair effects and some of the things about bronze dragons and whatever. And one of the suggested sort of elements is ghost ships. So I was thinking that as they are on the beach, going down the beach, it's night, and out to sea, they can see either a ghostly armada or a Flying Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman. We could even, foreshadow our patron here, or in Davy Jones, floating off the coast just out of sight, or there's a magical fog and they think they can see the rigging of a ghostly vessel, something along those lines.
I love this. How about we'll add in for our new DMs if the players are looking around, or if you want to have them make a perception check. Keen-sighted players will notice. How about this, Rob? A constellation that only appears at kind of random or astrological times called the Pirate's Rigging. And when you see the Pirate's Rigging hanging low in the sky, well, the Flying Dutchman might be on the horizon, and the players can see it. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
And then if we want to add any other interesting features of this area, I might add that looking across the water, you can see other spots that are dark blue. There are kind of like Yucatan Caribbean style sinkholes, cenotes.
Yeah. Okay.
Obviously the players are not equipped to deep dive into a giant hole in the underwater, but just to spice it up, let them know that, God, there are interesting things everywhere.
There's interesting things.
Okay. And then we're at our dungeon.
Okay. We're at the dungeon. I'm very happy with our first room, our first encounter with
the crayfish.
Crawfish. Crawdad, the big crawdad.
I was thinking if we want to make that encounter easier, maybe it's chained to the entrance, right? Like a junkyard guard dog. Ooh. And that would give clever players maybe another way to deal with this encounter.
The thing is that it's got 13 hit points and one claw attack. I think it's a CR-18. I think it's an okay encounter. I don't think we need to do anything here to adjust it. Though I guess we could put that in case new DMs are want to make sure that the players have an easy time with this.
Right.
They can already
I'm just
sneak
putting
past
it in there.
They can already talk to it, so
they can already give it fish.
That's right.
I was just adding that there as kind of more flavor, letting players know that, at least for our style of running things, monsters don't just exist in rooms as you're playing what's it called? A Gloomhaven, right? Monsters exist in rooms for a reason. And this one's chained here as a guard dog.
My headcanon was that Sariel had either magically or otherwise bound the crab or the giant crayfish to this room, or lured it there and had it her own way of getting past it. But yeah, also
I think she's just got it trained. Yeah, you can train a crab. Crabs are smart.
You can train a crab.
No. Sure. Who says you can? And then if the players,
none of the rules says you can't ride a crab.
Ride the crab, people. If we want to add, one of the things I have in my notes is we need to add treasure or interesting things. I think we should add a clue that there's like a couple splinters like in the mouth, or like tattered bits of fabric hanging off of the mandibles of the crayfish. And that's the clue for players who are new that, yeah, this crayfish ate a person or someone. If you open up its belly, there's some coins and a small uncommon magic item, or a scroll in a tube or something like that.
If people don't want to go digging around in crayfish guts, there could also just be something.
Why are you playing Dungeons and Dragons? This game is all about digging in creature
Could be something
guts.
indigestible, like a ornate sword or something in like a nest that they can also like make off with. Nothing too fancy, but some loot.
Yeah, okay, let's also add a little nest like inside the cave where it likes to cuddle up at night and turn 3 circles before it lays down.
Yeah, where it keeps its stuff.
I love our crayfish. I'm gonna, in my headcanon, I'm gonna come up with a name.
A name for the crayfish.
Did we give a name to our warlock? We did.
Remember?
I just forgot it.
Sariel.
Sariel. Yeah, Sariel has a pet name for this.
Yeah, of course. Sariel calls the crayfish something. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that's our first room.
Our next room is a set of tunnels which may or may not be flooded.
I had an idea for this.
Okay.
No, sorry. We already had a good idea for this, and this is depending on how quickly the players move, they're either flooded or they're not. Either way, they're difficult to navigate because they're at least like waist high, but they may have to swim if they took too long because of the tides. So I like that. I think that's a good thing. I also thought that, well, if we want like an obstacle here, there's some pretty like easy, like a geyser or some occasionally like water rushes through these tunnels. Nothing that's going to kill anybody or really cause major damage, but would be something that you'd have to avoid and sort of like work around. Just as sort of like an obstacle to overcome. Yeah,
I like that. I think one of the purposes of the tunnels is if players take the most obvious path, which they often don't, right? If they walk through the tunnels and they look around, you can say, well, there's a bunch of holes here and everything's wet. And you imagine at certain times this tunnel is full of water. And I think it's enough for new players to say, God, my dungeon master is so smart. Like, when we do things matters, right? If you want to add a geyser here, right, when a wave hits or something outside, then that's a good idea.
I like that. So yeah, there's hints that it will fill with water or that it fills with water, and then there's maybe some
the geyser's consequence can be you're soaked in salt water. It's cold.
Yes. Or you're knocked down and then you have to stand up. Nothing overwhelming.
You're basically embarrassed, which is basically, but this is good. It's kind of building the ominousness of, there are things in here. We have crossed, when we entered this cave, we went from the safety of a nice Florida fishing beach town to into the unknown. Next, we come to the entrance of the Bronze Dragon's audience chamber. And this is where we have finished stone and a summoning circle. We have dretches gnawing and fighting over bones.
I like this
mosaics. Room. I like this room a lot.
We need to add some details, but we can do that in post. What's on the mosaics? Are there some details about the statues? But that's just flavor. We can iron that out later. I think the core of this room is good. The summoning circle, the first real encounter with the dretches, and I also think that this is where we see our dragon's name for sure, if the players haven't encountered it already. And we came up with some ideas,
what were the names I wrote down? Serix, Aconix, Lamvir, Behero, Felcerix.
Felcerix. I slapped a bunch of them together. We'll stick with one
I like
of those.
that one.
I
Let's go
think
with the
that
complicated one, and then Cerix is
is
the
for short,
normal
right?
name.
Is everybody
Cerix
just
is a really good dragon
name? Yep.
sound. It's got the S for lizards, the X for
Ix.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Um,
So they know
okay.
the full name, and which will come in handy later.
I imagine it's an official title like Enter Mortals to, the audience chamber of Cerix and be blessed or something like that. Which may be a little ominous since there's all this demon stuff. Players are still figuring things out.
But that's just how
put in
bronze dragons talk, It sounds like intimidating, but they're just, very like stilted, formal kind of, it's they wouldn't be wrong to think this is a little bit intimidating, but also that's just how it's just how
and I love, instead of murals, mosaics. They kind of have that could be filled with water vibe of like a Roman bath. And so we should have 2 or 4 mosaics depicting scenes that Cerix would want visitors to see. So maybe a mosaic of a dragon holding back the waves, a mosaic of
a mosaic of the dragon blessing or interacting with his subjects, and
one of him founding the village. How about that?
Yes.
And then maybe this would be another potential hook. How about Cerix supposedly slaying or driving out an enemy,
Perfect.
driving out 3 black dragons or blue dragons.
How about a
something
kraken?
like that.
How about he's driving away a kraken?
Good. Yeah.
driving away a kraken and a bunch of boats full of Sahuagin, who are probably still living in those cenotes. Yeah, Cerix
Perfect.
battles Kraken. Wonderful. Okay, cool. That will be super flavorful. And then we've got our basically magical trap plus room with a bunch of fountains and pools and maybe a magical sculpture. We've got water clocks.
So we've already spent a lot of time. I wanted to revisit this room though. And I had a few ideas because what we had was good, but I felt like we weren't quite there. So we had like a floating sculpture and a bunch of water clocks. So let's fine tune this. So
okay,
I was thinking that we still have the water clocks and they're counters or countdowns or there's one that measures the tides. Maybe there's one that tracks the emergence of hurricanes, another that measures when there's going to be a major flood or something like that. And then I thought if we want to add further something interesting for the future, there can be one that's sort of like counting down and it's the biggest one and it's not clear like sort of like what it's referring to, some catastrophic future event or something like that. But the water clock room is there to sort of keep track. It's like a climate lab. It's like it's for people to keep track of, the natural world and protect themselves from, natural disasters basically.
Okay, I like that. I think I would also add there can be so many magical, interesting things here. The family tree fountains, because the players need to figure out that the twins have the dragon blood. And they're the only people
because of the flecks in their eyes.
Yeah, but you got to give them more than one clue or they're going to miss it.
I don't know about the family water clocks. I'm sorry, that feels very complicated to me, and I don't know that it's going to be easy to depict. I'm not saying no. It just feels
no, not water clocks. Just the family tree of Cerix painted onto the wall of mortals, and that magically upstate because Cerix has so many children, grandchildren, etc.
And-
Cerix, before he or she died, didn't have time to keep track of this, so they made a spell that keeps track of it
that
for them.
magically updates the family tree, and you can see the Brindisi family on there, and you know that they're related to the. Okay, got it. I love
And you
that.
can
Okay.
also see that, 4 of them have like some symbol that have been painted, like magically emerged, a skull, like they're dead,
They're dead.
untimely.
Got it. Okay, I love that.
Okay. I think this is good, and I still really like. Sometimes you figure out something is pretty seasoned. I like our dragon statue I-beam trap.
Yep.
That is easy. The
It's
easiest
easy,
thing in the
it's
world
fun.
to get around.
They'll feel good about doing it. I like that. Yeah.
It's never-ending story. We still need to add in more magical loot, and fun things for the players to grab. It could also
Yeah.
just be regular treasure. There could be a statue in this magic
There
room.
should be something
that
in this
could
room.
be,
There should be magical loot in this room,
looted,
yeah.
right? If players want to pry some gemstones out of one of the mosaics or something like that, they can do so.
We'll iron that out. There'll be loot in this room, but exactly what, we'll see.
The other thing I was thinking is if we're really trying to hit D&D basic tropes for new players, the two we're like missing is I guess like a mimic or one of the stupid dungeon monsters that was developed just to make life difficult, like a
Yes,
piercer
I
or a
was
cloaker.
Thinking about that too. We need a really annoying dungeon monster, and yeah, we have room for it in the next.
There could absolutely be a mimic in Cerix's horde, which has mostly been looted by Sariel. Yeah, okay. We don't need any more treasure right here, other than the dretches. There's some more stuff in the pile of dretch trash in the previous room, and there's some gemstones the players can pry out of something in this room full of Cerix's magic stuff. Let's get on to the throne room and the final encounter.
Okay. So the throne room, I like the general structure of it is awesome. There's flowing water. There's a throne where in human form Cerix used to entertain his subjects. There's more statues. There's more mosaics. And there's a drowning box. There's a, prestige style, box filled with water that as soon as the players enter, as soon as they enter combat with Sariel, the twin gets dropped into. And then, so we've got Sariel.
I want to add a couple things of
Sure.
basic spice before we even get there. When the players move past the magic room to where they can see the trap, the players can hear something going on.
Yes.
Now that they have time we want to give them as much time as they want to, press a magic button in the magic room. But once they get to the trap and they're like, that adds a little urgency for getting past the trap. They can hear chanting and if players have this, language, it's in Infernal. If they don't, it's in an evil sounding language, right?
Great.
They can hear, because this is what Sariel is doing. They are doing some ritual.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. So they can hear. That's exactly right. They can hear what's happening. And they know that something's going down, and presumably they rush onward.
So I think I am just using, and let me know if this is a good thing to base this off of, the Mage Apprentice for Sariel first encounter. First encounter is Sariel plus an imp of some kind, a toned down imp, and a Mage Apprentice has not
pseudo dragon. I was thinking.
Ooh. An evil pseudo dragon. That might be too many dragons. It might be confusing for the players.
Too many dragons. Okay. then no, that's good. An imp is fun and different. You're right though. Let's mix it up. An imp, that's their familiar, or that's Sariel's familiar.
That's classic
not too powerful.
D&D, right?
It's also classic D&D. It's annoying. I love it. No, that's right. Imp.
Though, let's see, which is the demon one? Everything else has been pretty chaotic evil. The imp might be lawful.
No, sorry, it's not.
Quasit. Yeah.
Is it Quasit?
It's a Quasit. Yeah, I think it's Quasit.
Oh yeah, you're right. No, the Quasit's the demon. So yeah,
they're basically indistinguishable. But yeah. Okay.
The
so
imp has that sting, which is actually kind of dangerous. The Quasit is a little bit less. Right. Not going to take anybody out with poison by accident. So okay.
Right, and it can turn into Centipede. It's fun. It has the scare
and we describe
ability.
It as a sea monster Quasit. It's got gills. It looks like a miniature version of the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah.
I love a Quasit. Okay, so it is a mage apprentice, or we could go with druid apprentice. I didn't know this was. This is from Frog God Games. Never mind. That's not in the SRD.
Can't just go around making stuff up.
Yeah. But we're going to use this as our base for the stats.
Yeah,
we said we would give them magic missile plus, maybe like grease spell or something, environmental
like
effect. And then that's pretty much it. It should not be hard for the players to take them down. They have maybe only slightly more hit points than one of the players. So that is fine.
Yeah, as statted second level, maybe.
Right.
Enough to survive a couple hits, get
two
one or
hit
two
dice.
spells off. And then we go to phase 2.
And then we want to put a huge shout out for listener Tyson for suggesting something from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons that we talked about during our review of that book and was definitely in the back of our mind when we were making this. Completely forgot about, which is there is a monster in Fizban's called a dragon flesh grafter and a dragon abomination, which is exactly what we had described Sariel the Warlock as doing before, turning themselves through dark magic into a dragon.
Okay. I love it.
So thanks, Tyson. We are absolutely going to use, I think, the dragon abomination, which is described as a dragon with still a few disturbing Cronenbergian human features. It is a little high for our players. It's CR6.
Yeah, so we're going to have to modify this, and you'll see the specifics in the final version. It's got a couple of passive abilities, a miasma, regeneration that's just going to cut entirely. Probably cut
those are
hit points.
Two, and this is useful advice for people doing this on your own. Like regeneration, that's too much for level 1 or 2 characters to deal with.
Yeah. We're going to probably cut its hit points in half, take away it's got 3 attacks, we'll give it 2, and then we just need to adjust the 2 hit and damage down to what will be appropriate for maybe a CR2 creature. That's all very, very easy to do, and that should be much, much more manageable. It'll take a few, it'll definitely be tougher, but it won't be too much for a level 1 party.
No, and
maybe one of those... Maybe one of those magic items that we haven't put out yet is something that can help with this encounter. A potion or a thrown object, a consumable of some sort that in dire straits they can use to help take down this dragon flesh abomination.
Right. This still has, like a 5-6 recharge lightning breath. The dragon flesh abomination has acidic breath, but we're changing that to lightning breath. And let's say holding one of the iron rods gives you resistance. There's probably a potion or a ring of lightning resistance hidden somewhere earlier. And maybe there's... we haven't included our first magic weapon yet, but I think a magic weapon should be a reward for this encounter.
A spear or a trident or something would be neat. Something...
I think Sariel definitely has a couple interesting things. Probably some potions, some scrolls, and a spell book. as well as and the spell book also has her contract with Davy Jones. And she probably has like a magic trident of some kind.
I love that.
Now,
okay.
we also need to think, is it clear enough from what we've written? And I think our big flaw so far is that I think it's kind of fun for players to discover that Sariel was trying to become the next bronze dragon so that she could use the magic throne to reverse the sinking of the city. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty high concept thing, and we may have to go back and add some more stuff so the players can figure that out.
I think the one thing that's really missing is a clear explanation of why Sariel is doing this. I don't think that's insurmountable. We just got to make sure to drop 5 times as many hints as we have so far, which is okay. Right. We can easily do that. We will do that in the final version.
Here's a tip that works for like all of your adventure writing. Like once the players defeat or disarm or kill Sariel, like in their spell book or whatever journal, they have notes that detail their big plan overall. Yeah. However, you want to put...
Well, they'll have a journal that'll explain this to everybody, but we would like the players to be able to figure it out ahead of time if they're paying attention, and that's what we have to set up.
Yeah. And that's good best practices, right? Have the mystery explained at the end in case the players missed everything or were unsure if their theory was correct, but give them enough clues before they get there so that they think they know what's going on, right? And then I think actually what we're missing is something very obvious, which is like a secret treasure room of Syrinx.
Yes.
Obviously not his or her main hoard, but
we don't have time to build it out, but I was thinking we should add 2 more rooms to this dungeon. 1, a dead end room, because you got to have an empty room to remind people that, you know, sometimes there's nothing there. And then a secret room with some treasure or items or something otherwise valuable and interesting to reward exploration.
Now we're running super long. I've got time, if you do, Rob, for one more discussion. If you're done, let's then wrap it up.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
We're gonna have to call it eventually because there's some other things that are just gonna have to be hashed out.
Yeah, sure.
Asynchronously, but let's do one more thing. What have you got?
We try and do as much like actual prep in a conversation, but at a certain point, creating adventures is a process of writing things down.
Well, and again, we have perhaps too many ideas for this one, and I'm having too good a time. I could talk about this for hours, but we have to stop eventually.
This one's really fun. I'm glad we made this adventure. I think one thing I want to come back to is, where can we add an interesting point for debate and discussion with the players? It could be with Sariel, with the warlock, is where my initial thought went.
This is I was just thinking this, Matt. The one thing that we're missing is my favorite part of D&D, and the thing that I think is missing the most from most starting adventures is a social encounter, a debate, a discussion, an argument, and where we put that is a really, really good question. So the
players have opportunities for this if they go around town and talk to the NPCs, but they don't really have to do that.
Right. And I like there to be a important social encounter with consequences in most adventures, right? So if they speak well and they do well on their social roles and they think cleverly and they, do good role playing, they should have an opportunity to be rewarded for that, right? So I can think of a couple things here.
Okay.
The obvious
I've got two options too, but let's hear yours.
So the obvious one, and I'm going to tell you why this has problems, but it's also a fun one, is give them a chance to debate with Sariel. Try to get them, or Sariel is not immediately violent and wants to talk. Wants to convince the players that what she's doing is necessary, right?
Right. She's got
typical villain stuff.
Her quasit doesn't look like a quasit. It looks like a disgusting aquatic,
It looks like a toad, because quasits can transform into toads or something.
Centipedes.
So it's toad form.
And she's got her hand on the lever of the prestige box. So she's got the upper hand in this negotiation. The players
Right.
are like, all right, after a moment, they'll realize, okay, you're just dunking someone in water. People can hold their breath for a little while. Maybe enough time for us to kill you. Cool. This, I think, is an absolute great way to formulate this scene, right? They come into the room, the throne is glowing, there's salt and candles on the floor. This obviously a magic ritual, shit is glowing. The player, and then Sariel can build on this, like, hey, let me do this. If I kill this one person, she's the last one I need. I can become a full bronze dragon. I can save this city.
You can save this town, right.
Sarek's magic is fading. He's the whole reason this town is here, right? We can write up some cool quotes. I now that we've talked through this, I love this because the negotiation, there's not a lot of consequences here. Like, the players either have to sacrifice a nice person they met or fight with this person.
And again, I like this, but like, how do we make it meaningful? How do we make it more than just villain monologuing, right? If the players make a good point to Sariel, or if they convince her that she's misguided, what benefit, how do we reward them for good role playing, I guess, is the one thing that I think we're missing.
Absolutely. I think here's two options. One, they could totally avoid our super cool combat encounter by convincing Sariel to not be completely evil and murder a person. But now they've murdered several other people, and they're like, I'm not coming back with you. You will have to fight me if you want to take me into the authorities, right? There's where I draw the line, right?
I like that. So yeah, I can think of two ways this goes.
Add one more thing, which is
go ahead.
If we want to include a cool combat encounter anyway, backing down will mean consequences for Sariel, which is that Davy Jones sends a demon after them.
I was going to say that the benefit, if they talk Sariel into not dunking their friend, then one, their friend doesn't get dunked. That makes the combat easier. And then two, even when Sariel tries not to fight, Davy Jones triggers her dragon transformation anyway. And then
they skip phase one.
They skip phase one and then have to fight the abomination. So that feels like a good, here's your
sets up
consequences.
Davy Jones as a villain.
Yes. You can hear like his voice echoing through the temple. You've betrayed me for the last time, Sariel.
Right. Davy Jones can speak through any water connected to the ocean. So the moat itself echoes, and we can see like a mouth form in it. And
yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Oh,
that's
cool.
so good. Okay. Now, actually, I'm going to suggest one more thing because I think this is a great social encounter and hits the pillar. But, again, social encounters always get the short end of the stick. I think we could add in another optional one somewhere. And I think a good way to do this is to have a prisoner or a ghost somewhere in the dungeon, right? A real fan. Oh, sorry. My three options I have in my notes are prisoner, ghost, trapped fae that the players could encounter somewhere here. And it's not critical to the plot. Like, if they meet this person, like, fuck off, ghost. They can, right? But they're like, I played this. I want to play this game so I can talk to a fae or a ghost. Then you get to do that.
Matt, this is so good. I love this. And a trapped fae is perfect because that, in my opinion, because that gives us a chance to bring in some of the creatures that were too powerful to use as enemies, but are totally relevant to this sort of adventure. So a marrow, a maybe even like a naga, or it could even be like a bound Marid or something that is powerful but trapped until Sariel is dealt with, and then they're released. But they're willing to share information and aid with the players, but of course, they're Fae, and they can't be trusted, and they're
How about
just
a
as likely...
Selkie?
Ooh, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, a trapped Selkie.
Yeah. A Selkie or a Swan Maiden, less
Yes.
powerful than a Nereid, and definitely more mythological, right?
Yes.
Nereids
Yes.
are, Selkies. I feel like what we could do, because I actually don't have anything beyond this, is read a couple Selkie folklore tales and twist one of them and put a Selkie here
It's
that
actually a really
Serial
great
or something has done.
Selkie movie. What's it called? Song of the Sea. You should watch it if you haven't. It's an Irish animated film, and it's really, really good. But yeah, let's read some Selkie tales and like come up with some just a little bit of dialogue for a trapped Selkie who is, again, a Fae. Not unhelpful, but also maybe a little mischievous, puckish, might be causing problems just to cause problems, and maybe even makes a deal with consequences if we want to write that in.
Yeah. And this Selkie could have been imprisoned. We have a lot of options to work with that we got to think about. This Selkie could have been imprisoned by random chance. That often happens to Fae. By Davy Jones, by Serial, by even Syrinx himself. Maybe Syrinx as a lawful bronze dragon is like, I'm fucking tired of these chaotic ocean Fae messing with my perfect beach town.
Maybe this Selkie, crossed a line, and Syrinx was like,
and
stop
knows
that.
some stuff about Syrinx. If the players are like, I don't understand these murals, what's going on? This Selkie
Actually,
can
this is
provide
good.
some
The Selkie
clues,
the Selkie
a
can be
magic
sort of like
item in return for freedom.
Selkie can be our DM tool for like answering any questions that they didn't figure out on their own. And yeah.
Actually, Rob, let's combine this with your dead end room.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
Where
the Selkie's in there.
After there is a tunnel out of. Okay, there is an obvious, straightforward thing, but there's also a tunnel out of this magic room after the players fight the Dretches, where they can find the trapped Selkie, and they definitely. It's classic stuff. They go down. There's a pool. There is a half seal, half person, lounging there. They are super suave, and you can tell maybe a little dangerous. They know things. Okay, so dead end room is the Selkie's room.
Okay,
we can give them a cool like Icelandic name.
Yeah, we'll give them
it's jarring with the more tropical setting.
Something Celtic, Irish, Scottish, Icelandic, something from the North Sea, and okay.
I love that. Okay, and there is another cool social. It's just if the players want to talk to this Selkie and then walk away, they absolutely can. But the debate of freeing the Selkie will always be a good one.
Yep. I love that.
Well done. God, we are so good at this.
I am feeling very excited about this. Okay. All right, this was long. We got a lot to work on. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you have thoughts, Matt and I are going to be working on hashing this out over the next week, hopefully to release. If you have suggestions, thanks for for those of you who wrote in. Thanks again to, what was our listener's name? Tyson for reminding us about the Dragonflesh Abomination, which is perfect. But if you have other suggestions or thoughts, please write us. We love your suggestions.
If you're a patron, read over what we've... Yes. If you're a patron, please read over our draft. If you're not a patron, you could join if the draft of this adventure is something that interests you. But if you just want to give us some comments based on what you heard, we welcome that as well. All
right. Thanks again, everybody. Write us with any questions, thoughts, suggestions at dmofnone@gmail.com. Our Patreon is patreon.com/dungeonmasterofnone. Please do stay healthy, stay safe, and keep rolling them dice.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere
beyond the sea. She's there watching for me. If I could fly like birds on high, then straight to her arms I'd go sailing.